Well, I feel like I date men that are ambitious, maybe more so in my age, and then I've started to recently date a lot older men.
But you skip past the question. You don't know these men.
No, I don't know those men that make $500K. No.
You don't even know what they typically want. They typically want a traditional wife, which means your career. Let's due respect. Why do you need it if you're not paying any bills?
I mean, I still want my own sense of like being who I am.
Buy a dog. See, careers are for outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
There was something better on the other side. Just had to let go, my pride make change. I've been stuck and I ain't ever want to lie. But I've been in a rut for some days. Feeling down and out, make my soul wanna hide. It's been too long since I've been outside. Doing the healing now, spread my wings and fly. Only then can I truly upgrade. Had to take a minute for a reset.
Yes, sir. You just found it. Intercourse with you. Let's chat. Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I am your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting video for you. Today we are reacting to a Kevin Samuels video where he interviews a woman who currently makes about $50,000, but she wants a high-value man who makes at least 10 times as much. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into the video.
Is your price too high?
No, I don't feel like it's too high at all.
Okay. What do you want?
I feel like I watch you and I listen to everything that you say. And I mean, I want a man that's definitely going to be able to pay the bills, like take care of me. But I still want to be able to have the option to work and do like have a career and still have kids.
Okay. So you want it all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you live?
I'm in North Georgia, like Gwinnett.
Well, are you currently seeing somebody right now that can pay your bills?
Nope, not at the moment.
What was the last relationship you had?
I was with him for 6 years.
And why didn't you guys get married for 6 years?
I met him in college and that was my first boyfriend. And so, yeah, I think we just went through a lot. And by the time we got to the end where we could possibly make something work, it just did not work.
Okay, how much money is a man going to need to make to be able to pay all the bills for a family of 4 in Atlanta?
In Atlanta? Probably well over 400K.
Do you care if he's black or not?
No.
Yeah, but he will. The more money you tend to make, the more racially loyal they tend to be.
Oh.
What percentage of men in this country make $400,000?
Oof, probably like...
She froze on me. What percentage of men in this country make over $400,000?
I would say maybe 2 to 4%. Probably not a lot.
1.
Okay.
1%. So let's go back to what you said. I feel, which is kryptonite. Men don't care about what you feel. We think, act, and do. You did it all at 28 years old with no men in the pipeline, and you want a top 1% man. What does a man who making the kind of money you're talking about making? What do those men typically want from a woman?
Youth, beauty. That's probably it. I wouldn't say submission.
Is that the TV or something?
Yeah, probably is a TV.
Yeah. No, the number one thing that men like that tend to want is cooperation. And a man who's making $400,000 a year, at what age do you think men make that legally?
Well over 35.
Well over 35. Men hit that financial stride between 45 and 55. Are you prepared to marry a man that's 45 years old or older?
No.
So you're a delusional black woman. You don't have any of this in your life. You don't have it in the pipeline. And not only do you want a man who's in the top 1%, you want him to be closer to your age, and then you want him to want what you want him to want.
Right.
So, if this was just a math problem, it seems to me that you don't know these men.
Well, I feel like I date men that are ambitious, maybe more so in my age, and then I've started to recently date a lot older men.
But you skip past the question. You don't know these men.
No, I don't know those men that make $500K. No.
You don't even know what they typically want. They typically want a traditional wife, which means your career. Let's due respect. Why do you need it if you're not paying any bills?
I mean, I still want my own sense of like being of who I am.
Buy a dog. See, careers are for outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So you want it to look like I got my own sense. Your sense can be to be a wife to a productive, competitive, successful man and a successful mother to 2 children. Why is that not enough?
Why can I not have my career and have my kids and my
Because
husband?
you're not qualified.
What makes me unqualified?
You don't know these men. You don't even know what they want. They don't want what you want traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
You can want it, but this is where it comes right down to what makes you not qualified. When I talk to these men, they don't want modern women. Again, you want your husband to be making $400,000+. Who's going to raise your children while you? What is your career?
Media correspondent.
Okay, so when you are off on site, where are the children going to be?
Daycare.
So somebody else is going to be raising his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
No. Then he might as well marry the nanny.
Mm.
See, this is this modern power couple. No. Men don't work 70, 80, 100 hours for 20+ years to go marry a woman to just carry their children to allow a stranger to raise them.
Right. So
Are your mother and father married? Are your mother and father married?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Was your father the majority breadwinner?
Mm-hmm.
What did your mother do?
She does admin stuff, but my mom they're both from Jamaica. So coming over here, she used to do Coventry Healthcare. So she used to do clerical stuff for them.
Okay, but your mother worked outside of the house?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have much respect for housewives?
I do. It's a full-time job. I have close friends that are doing that.
Okay, but the kind of men you're talking about would want a housewife more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're honest, what is the level at the end of your career, where would you like it to be?
My goal right now is to be like a Jeannie Mai. I want to be a personality that people come and listen to my opinions.
And Jeannie Mai on talk shows?
Yes.
Do you know about how her first marriage turned out?
I did. I do.
Is she talking anything like you now?
Not now, no.
Exactly.
No.
Because it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. But she's still able to have a relationship and be a media correspondent.
Ma'am, she's talking nothing like you're talking now.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. See, your priority, and you're free to choose it, is your media is going to be more important than your man and your family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any men who actually have made themselves the kind of men you're talking about who are not going, they're number one. Their purpose is number two. You're number three. You're looking, basically, the kind of man you're looking for would drive you up a wall. A beta male would allow a woman to be on top. or be equal, and he's making all that money. I think you may have kind of figured what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But what makes you special? Where you can get this?
Well, I listen to a lot of your things that you say, and you say that these men look for women that are attractive, take care of themselves, and are submissive. And I feel like I do hold a lot of those characteristics.
Okay, there are thousands of you.
Right.
So you're attractive, granted. Take care of yourself, granted.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also women who were raised to be first ladies, wives, not wanting to challenge. You want equality.
Mm.
You want your own identity. Then go work for then marry. Then your man is the institution. Because you got to understand, if you have let's say you and I were married, and I'm making millions, and you're making what?
I would assume just as close to that.
No. Media correspondence, for whom?
Depends on where I land.
Right. For every Jeannie Mai, come on. Most of the journalists that I knew in school, they had to work free internships. Journalists are some of the brokest people in the world.
Oh, I know.
So that's not cap.
Okay.
You're talking about trying to be in the top 1/10 of the 1%. Mm-hmm. Most journalists is broke as French toast.
Mm-hmm.
So earning what? Before your big break?
Before my big break, I would say probably 50.
50. Baby girl, that's the kind of man 50 to a man that's making 400.
Mm-hmm.
That's less. That's just over 10% of what he's making. It will cost more to hire the nannies. New child infant care is $2,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a 1 and a 3-year-old, you're looking at $3,000.
So my question, Kevin, though, is because I've had a fork in the road where I either need to pick my career or pick whether I want to be a housewife.
Great.
So it's getting into the rooms of being into the face of the men that I want to be in front of.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I don't know how to kind of articulate what I'm trying to say, but it's more so like I've been in front of men that make a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like I could still do both at the same time.
Well, that's what you
feel.
I
have kids.
That's what you feel. And see, and I'm gonna just be dead honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
The leverage is on this side,
right?
Not yours. Both men will date you. Both men will sleep with you. Only neither will marry you. That's just what it comes down to. Neither will marry you. So what it is what we haven't got to. You're coming from a place of you're projecting fear, scarcity, and lack. Mm. That's why you need to have your career and everything else, because what if my marriage doesn't work? What if this? What if that? What if I get lost doing all sorts of stuff? So really, a man at this level would just be hiring you for your DNA. He'd be hiring you to impregnate you, for you to carry the child, to make the child, and then someone else will go raise that child while you're off being a media correspondent, fulfilling your purpose and dream. That's not what these men typically want. But let's be honest. Do you really think that, are you really coming from a place where you think your marriage is going to last for 40, 50 years?
Yeah, I truly do.
Okay, then why would you want someone else to raise your children?
I think I've seen my mom do both. So I'm assuming that I can also accomplish that.
How many children does your mom have?
Just me.
There we go. Ding, 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 ding. Only child syndrome. No, baby girl.
Okay.
No. You're an attractive woman, but that ain't enough.
Mm.
I mean, and what you're telling me, ma'am, if I put you in a room with these men, you fast realize how out of step with your competition you really are, just by the femininity these ladies exude. their willingness to be the first lady. Versus you would more likely be over in a conversation with the men wanting to exchange opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make great sex. But no thank you. So you have to ask yourself a question. If that's most important to you, then you're talking about a completely different kind of man. You're talking about a man who's making closer to $50,000, $70,000 a year if you're fortunate. Could you respect the man making that kind of money? But you're also talking about a quality of life to where you making 50, he's making 70. Y'all not living in Buckhead. You're not driving BMW. You driving Honda Civics. You're not going to Hermes and Dior. Don't be going over shops in Buckhead. Yeah. Every now and then, y'all may be able to go to Papa though on your anniversary or something.
Right.
Can you really live that life?
I don't think so.
Exactly. I'm looking at you now. So the thing is, man, I feel so sorry for so many of our young sisters because you all want this inflated lifestyle. And that's fine to want it, but the kind of men, you wouldn't want to date a man that's 45. But then who else is going to make the money? An athlete, entertainer, or a musician, or a D-boy? What this shows more than anything else is men and women that focus so much on who they are. And the world has let you guys do this on what you want, to where you've had to focus nothing on who the men actually are, what the men actually want. So you don't mean to, but you're really dissing a whole group of men by pedestalizing this group of men, but you're not even giving these men what they want.
Right.
And sadly, so many of our sisters are stuck in this position because of the ego and the pride that comes along with what you're talking about. It's not as though, yes, there are women who can do both, but Jenny Mai has no children.
Yeah.
And her first marriage failed miserably because she didn't want kids, and he did. He went off and got married and had kids. So, and then complicate this with being an only child kind of thing. A lot of moving parts there, man. A lot of moving parts.
Okay.
I think you need to take some real time to figure out really what you need, not what you want. What you want may be one thing, but what do you need? Because if your family are from Jamaica, I mean, it ain't like you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. So why are you so bougie now?
As I've gotten older, I've learned to know myself. So.
On whose money?
My own money.
Making $50,000 a year?
I mean, so during the day, I still work in real estate. And then, of course, as a media correspondent, I have to pick up my gigs on the weekends.
Okay. But it still nets to a certain amount of money.
Right.
How you spoiling yourself without the money? I'm going to spoil myself. Does that mean you roll up in the Cartier and it is what it is? Can you do that at 28 on your income?
No.
Then you can't spoil yourself, baby girl. But see, the confidence in which some of the young professional sisters talk is like, well, it's just it's almost like you're coming off as though, I don't want to use the word an imposter, but it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't want to get too deep into how much you make, but with 28, a media correspondent, I would assume you between 40 and 75, and that's being generous. And that's with all your gigs and everything else.
Right.
That's a nice apartment and a car note. That's be able to go to La Villa Bouquet every now and then, but really, men that you date will probably pick up the slack. But that's fine. They're going to want something for that. So if you end up being closer to the norm for media correspondents, closer to the median income, not the Jenny Mai, because that's the exception.
Right.
And you look at everybody on that panel. Lonnie Love does not look like one of the happiest people in the world, and she got a broken painter. So, and Lonnie, you know, you talk a lot of shit about black men, so you got it coming. And you got a reformed Jeezy. But if you stick closer to what most people make, that means you're not going to be making over 6 figures. Do you really want to go the rest of your life because you need to be independent in your sense of self to where you end up 50 years old with the middling career as a correspondent, news here, this, such and so forth? I mean, you're doing okay, but you can't travel and go to Paris, and it's not on your own money.
Right.
What does that look like after you're no longer able to sit in the anchor chair? Or you know, you no longer have this youthful view, but they bring in the next group of women. What does that look like? Because then you can't turn around and try to be like, well, now I'm ready to get married. No. You
Too old. Yeah.
You're in the danger zone for a reason. This is the age where you ladies really have to make up your mind. Either I'm going to couple with the man of value and I'm going to figure something out, or I'm going to go this life by myself and I'm going to take what it gives me. And this path is not one I recommend because it's highly competitive and no one's going to give you anything. And this path tends to end up in a lot of loneliness. So unless you know you are 100% willing to commit, and that means cutting off marriage and kids and all that other stuff, because to make this work, you can't serve two masters. You got to pick a side. I hate to break it that way, but just think about it. Just think about it. But you can't have everything.
Can't have it all.
And you want it all plus some, plus some, plus some.
Yes. I tried it.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.
Okay, there we have it. You just watched the video with Kevin Samuels interviewing the young lady who made about $50,000, but she was seeking a man who made at least 10 times that amount of a higher value. As you could see, one of the notable things to note or to pay attention to in that past video is the fact that that conversation went relatively well, right? A lot of times when Kevin has callers and people are sassy or condescending or, rude, he kind of, reciprocates that type of energy. But whenever there's a caller who is respectful and who is, pleasant, then you see the conversation tend to go rather smoothly. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that is with Kevin Samuels. A lot of people assume that he's just trying to put women down and he's, essentially, a bad guy simply because of his particular style. But what I find, if you watch enough of his content, you'll see that, a lot of the messages that he gives and a lot of the interviews that he does tend to be relatively decent interviews where he's, well-meaning. He doesn't, set out to insult anyone or to hurt anyone, but I think sometimes there's some backlash. Now, more specifically with this particular young lady, I think she's still relatively young. And one of the things that I paid attention to was the fact that she said, her first relationship was in college. So, she doesn't have a whole lot of experience when it comes to dating men. And, I think her expectations was probably framed by things outside of her own personal experiences, whether that's social media, friends, or maybe even, some older women who may have told her certain information. She's coming into it, assuming that, if a man doesn't make a certain amount of money, then he doesn't necessarily qualify. And I think that's a point of a discussion for people to pay attention to. The amount of money a man makes does not determine a man's character. The amount of money a man makes does not determine how he will treat you. And the amount of money the man makes does not determine or guarantee a better quality of life. You may have more money to spend on some things, but that doesn't mean that being in a house with a man who makes a lot of money but doesn't necessarily treat you well is going to somehow, some way solve all your problems. Now, some people say it's better to have money in your pocket and have problems than to have no money in your pocket and have problems. That is a true statement. But what I'm saying is I just don't believe that that should be a criteria for choosing a mate. I think we should focus more on a man's character and not just on a man's means. A lot of times, too, our expectations are off. Most young men are not necessarily developed mentally and does not necessarily want the same things at a younger age that a young woman may want. There's things like geriatric pregnancy where a woman develops at a much faster rates than a man. So she's thinking on levels because her body is prompting her, to, find someone and to mate, because there's all these natural things that takes place. And, so I think she's probably a little more mature, whereas a young man takes some time to kind of come into himself. And so when that's the case, it leaves, some things to be desired from the standpoint of the woman, right? You are somehow, some way not able to actually find somebody necessarily who shares the interest, which is why you see in a lot of cultures, younger women who come of age tend to be paired with older men because those older men are A, more established, and B, they're mentally at that place where they want family, and it aligns with, a young woman wanting to be a mother and to be a wife to someone. Now, that's not to say that young people can't, develop and mature at early age. That does happen too. But I do think that there's a couple components to everything. I think there's a few things that we have to factor in, one of which is, timing. Another thing is, too, how someone treats you. Put more emphasis on that. So I think the advice that Kevin gave this young lady was very constructive. I think he, shared some perspective that she may not have been getting. And I would encourage young women to seek counsel either from your father or from some respectable male figure, because to get information about the opposite sex from the opposite sex is wise, I think, versus seeking information about the opposite sex from the same sex, right? I can't tell you how a woman thinks per se. I may have dealt with them and I might have some hunch, but an older woman who's thought that way might be a more appropriate source of information or resource for young women seeking information from older women. But at the same time, if a young woman is seeking to know how men think, it's probably best for you to seek the counsel of your father or seek the counsel of an elderly man or a person who can speak to that, who cares about you, who can tell you the truth about how men think, because they are men, they were young, they experienced the feelings, they've been in positions where they could have chose someone, and they can give you that insight. And that insight can just kind of help to balance your expectations and to, kind of give you the tools you need to determine who's the type of guys to gravitate to and who not to gravitate to. And I think there's this idea that if you have a man of higher value, that somehow guarantees your happiness, and it doesn't. And I think that's one of the points that Kevin tried to hark on in his own way, is that when you meet men, just because they make more money doesn't mean you're going to get, a better quality of life all around. You may have more access to resources and money, which is very true. You may be able to do that, but that man still has expectations. You still have to actually relate to that man, which is why it's a relationship, which is why it's union. You still have to understand that man. What does he want? What does he value? How does he move? What does he expect from you? These are all sort of the terms of engagement, right? Like these are things that you have to understand, and you have to ask yourself, is what this man requiring of me what I'm willing to give? Is what this woman requiring of me what I'm willing to do, right? And once you can get through that sort of thought process, then I think at that point you can, go to the next layer of questions, which is, can we work together? Can we agree? Are we a good team? Do I believe in his vision? Do I trust that he's a man of integrity? Will he lead me in the direction I want to go? Or is he going to lead me astray, away from where God would want me to be? These are factors that you have to put into consideration. Now, another major point in this particular episode was the fact that women are not very deliberate about choosing to be with someone from a very early age. I think the notion that you have to live your hot girl summers when you're early and when you're young and date all these men and do all these different things and, you know, build up your body count and, you know, pick up a couple scars along the way, fall in love, resent and all that. All those things create scars. All those things create baggage that when you do find the man in your dreams, you're not plagued by the past experiences, the scars and the wounds that you gathered from the relationships you had in the past. So for the young women listening to this message, I would advise, and I would definitely, you know, tell you all to be deliberate very early on about what kind of life you want, what outcomes you want, and to position yourself to do it. I think a lot of times people will prioritize their careers. They'll put a lot of time and effort into careers to curate where their careers end up, right? But they don't necessarily take that same approach when it comes to their relationships. And I think you do. I don't think you could leave your relationship to chance. I think we should be students of communication. We need to learn how to better communicate, not just with your man, but learn how to communicate in general. We need to learn how to be better listeners, right? We need to learn how to be better servants. How do we serve the needs of others? What is the value that we're going to bring to someone, right? These are the things that makes you valuable to someone. These are the things that make someone not want to live without you, because these are the things that are rare. And when you are being deliberate about how you approach relationships, you'll find that you get a little better outcome, and you'll have more clarity as to, you know, the right fit for you, you know, the person that compliments you the most. So these are factors that I think absolutely matter. These are things that I think should go into consideration when it comes to choosing a mate and when it comes to choosing someone that you're going to call a partner, especially a life partner. And also, you know, having a good attitude, being willing to work through issues, showing respect to your partner, loving a person, and really just, you know, working with each other, cooperating with each other. I think those are essential pieces as well to the puzzle. So I've said a lot. You know, I hope some of the stuff that I've said has been useful to you guys as you know, try to get some gems out of these you know, shows. I want people to know that this is meant to be constructive. This is not to knock anyone who hasn't necessarily found what they're looking for. I think, you know, a person out there can love and appreciate you. And I would encourage everyone to continue to have hope that they can find someone, but also to manage your expectations, right? Sometimes the best man for you is not necessarily the richest man you could find, right? So, you know, maybe ask yourself, what do you value more? You know, a man's means solely or a man's character, right? Because sometimes good character will lead you into good to abundance, but sometimes bad character would lead you into poverty. So it really kind of depends. So I would certainly encourage people to factor that in as well. For those of you who are not subscribed to the show, who is not part of our community, I would ask that you go ahead, click the subscribe button and join our community, because we definitely value your input and your voice. And we hope that you are benefiting from the show as we are continuing to develop the content so that it caters to our audience. With that said, I am signing off, wishing you all a good night.
There was something better on the other side. Just had to